Can you talk a little bit about the HX Stomp? Can you talk about your impressions? I always get mixed up. The HX Stomp is the small one, right?
The Stomp is the small one with the amp modeling.
Yeah.
The Effects is just the effects.
You probably have more experience with it than I do.
I don't have a Stomp, but I have a Helix floor, and I think it's really good. Some people may argue that point. But
what happens if you want to get feedback and you turn your guitar at your Helix? What happens?
The answer is to this modeling situation is simple. You can't just play your guitar through a wedge. That's not cool. That doesn't sound good. It feels whack. No good. So you got to go modeler, power amp, cab. Is what you got to do. So I'm running mine through the Quilter Micro Pro.
I'm just going into the return, so it's...
No, I'm actually going into their like flattest setting in the preamp, believe it or not, and I'm running amp models into that, and it sounds awesome. Like the Quilter takes a little bit of the edge off.
And then you go into a cab, so you get the coloration of a speaker.
G1265. Although I have used the two neodymium Celestions. One is the Quilter one, BN12300, which is an interesting and very cool speaker in its own right. And then there's the Copperback, which is more like an EV,
right,
slower kind of response. That BN300 is a trip, though, man. It's like the EQ of an EV speaker, but it is like fast responding, like a bass speaker or like a small magnet speaker. It's a trip. It's a really cool speaker, actually.
I've only used them a couple of times. I've used them with Eric Walls. I've used them with Corey Wong on his travel rig, and I mean, I think that they sound great. I think certainly for the money they do a lot of stuff. And you know, I'm gonna do a rig basically that copies my existing rig, except I'm using all of the HX effects, which is a little bit different than the HX Stomp. Because I'm not to the point where I would not use a tube amp. I'm still really married to that. So I wouldn't be a good person to evaluate it on the merits of how it sounds direct.
The one thing you miss, I think, with the tube amp is in the Helix, there's a little different feel. It doesn't quite have the softness of a tube amp. I know when I play a tube amp, I get a little more of that. The only way to describe it is softness, flex, and it's not compression. It's just the input, the way the input reacts to a guitar signal.
Got it.
You can mess with it. I mean, the Helix has an input impedance thing that can sort of mess with it, but it's not quite the same. They'll get there.
Yeah, so I'll build one with the HX effects, and I'll tell you what I think more at that point.
Dumble's going to make a digital. His next amps are all digital.
Yes, he's going to master the digital.
Yeah.